Imagine this. You're in the 2nd or 3rd grade and you get taken out of school for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the local Nordstrom. There was an activity for the groundbreaking or whatever. You could paint tile and be immortalized.
Immortalized. Like, this podcast is actually not like immortalizing us, but our tiles at the Mission Viejo Mall are immortalizing us forever.
You can see mine that says Lauren Bledsoe, Nordstrom Princess Mall Diva.
Well. Lauren, we are back in the studio, back together recording. We want to get into sort of who we are, sort of, go back in time, maybe lay the foundation. Pop Apologists 101. That's really what this episode is for.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who have joined listening to the show, but haven't been here for all 400 episodes.
And I will say, we have a decent amount of inside jokes or lore that people might not be caught up on.
Correct. So this episode is really for you if you want to know who the F are the Pop Apologists. Like, who are these girls? Why are they doing this podcast? Yeah. Why should I listen to them?
How do we know each other?
How do we even know each other?
Yeah.
Which is a key question.
A key question that we should just get into. So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
And let's start, first of all, how did we meet?
I actually met Chandler on her birthday.
It's true. So weird that you met me on my birthday.
The very first day she was born. So Chandler and I are sisters. I don't remember meeting her, but I definitely did.
Oh, that's fucking rude. That's rude. You don't remember me at all. I was like, literally, your younger sister.
5.
That's old enough to have memories. I remember meeting you. Just kidding. I don't. Wow, that's super rude.
Apologies. So we are sisters. We are from Orange County, California.
Yeah.
Southern California.
It's true. It's actually funny to me that a lot of people don't realize that we're sisters. That they, someone was like, have you guys always been besties?
Well, they might mean that, as sisters.
No. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. But anyway, I just think it's it's funny and kind of sweet to me that people don't even realize that we're sisters. And so this must be really fun for you people who think that we were just friends, because we're actually related by blood and basically have to know each other for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, we are really in it.
We're really in it.
And I think that the other question that we get a lot is how to tell our voices apart, which obviously it's genetics, your voice. Mm-hmm. It must be. Because you, me, Courtney, I think we all have this very similar tone.
Correct, yeah.
A little congested today, so that might be kind of helpful for people.
Yeah.
But funnily enough, we got this feedback when we first started the podcast that it was difficult to tell our voices apart. Mm-hmm. And so I try to say Chandler as much as possible to differentiate. But we have gotten some feedback as well that can you quit it with constantly saying Chandler? It reminds me of when my teacher is saying my name even though I'm listening.
It does sometimes feel like I'm on the witness stand or something. It feels like Lauren is cross-examining me. I feel like I never address you as Lauren.
No, you don't.
I don't.
You should start using my name more.
I don't know. There's something about it feels so formal for me to use your name. I don't really
Chandler.
like it when people even use I don't like it when Ben says my name. But anyway, basically, I don't know what to tell you people. If you can't tell us apart, that's okay. I'm not mad at you, but I don't really have a strategy. Other than that, maybe if you're listening to someone speak and they're being very articulate and they're using big words, it's probably me.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're listening to someone talk and it seems like they're really giving a safe opinion, it seems like they're really towing the line, you're listening to me.
It's actually the opposite. I think that Lauren usually is the one getting in hot water, saying exactly what she thinks, and I'm more muzzled. But yeah.
I have less of a filter than Chandler.
True.
I think I'm more open as a person,
I'm just more afraid than you are of the masses.
Yeah.
Not that masses listen to our podcast, but I'm more afraid of hate and any type of negative energy. And I think you actually thrive.
I don't thrive on negative energy at all.
Not that it doesn't offend you. And I think that you're not does it fuel you in any way to have people disagree with you?
That's a very loaded, yes, it does. You think it does. And maybe it does on some level because I have been called a contrarian.
Yes, you absolutely are a contrarian. I am not. I like it when the conversation is pleasant and when everyone is in agreement. So I think it actually gives me hives when I think that things are starting to feel argumentative.
Yeah, I think there probably is a subconscious part of my personality that enjoys having a different opinion than other people, which is so annoying.
Pretty annoying.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's a little bit of, our psyche, and that might help people, tell our voices apart, if you will.
Okay, so how this all started is Chandler and I were in college together. Mm-hmm. There's a 5-year age gap. So I am 34, Chandler's 29.
Correct.
But we did go to undergraduate at the same time due to some delays in my schooling and education. So we were at undergrad. We had 2 years of overlap. And during that time, we were very obsessed with Kanye West, the Kardashians. This was peak Kimye days.
Yeah. I think as well, we were big, like, reality TV girlies. I mean, still are. But we, like, in our spare time, we were diving headfirst into all things pop culture. I think as well, we were attending BYU, which is just a very conservative university. And I think there was a little bit of, like, that was sort of a reprieve from maybe, like, the conservative waters we were swimming in at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we started Pop Apologists, the podcast, with our friend. We had a co-host at the time, Megan. We did about maybe, how many episodes was it? 9?
No. 9 or 10, perhaps.
I feel like that's, if memory serves, it was that many.
And, like, it was so scrappy. I think we were, like, recording just on our computer. I don't even know if we had a mic. We were, like, recording at, like, a random office space that Megan, like, had access to. I think it was, like, where she worked. And it was just like, oh my gosh, Orlando Bloom's nudes just leaked. We got to go record about this.
We got to sit down.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but I quit the podcast at least once in that 10-week period.
Of course you did. Why?
Because I needed to devote myself fully to literature.
Yeah. So once again, another easy way to differentiate. If someone is being pretty pretentious, it's usually Lauren.
It's 100% me. Anyway, long story short, I was a very pretentious undergraduate student.
Correct.
Like, extremely. I mean, am I going to even get into it or no?
I think you should, yeah.
I really wanted to be a poet. Okay.
Yeah. Because I think it's a part of your lore.
It's a part of my history. And I went to conferences and
I'm trying to not be reactive, but can anyone imagine anything worse than, like, a poetry conference? Snooze.
I went to academic conferences. Long story short, I really wanted to be a professor and publish. Yeah. And, you know, that's what I wanted my life's work to be, iterating the human experience on the page. Okay. And in that community, it's very cultish, the academic literary community. You'll hear things like, you know, if you have 30 seconds at the airport, you should read a poem. You know, you're constantly trying to become better.
Yeah.
And it's really like devoting your entire life to a discipline, to a higher art than yourself.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I can't think about Erica Jane. Like, I have to think about contemporary whatever. And so I just, I quit the podcast at least once during that time. But the main reason...
I would give anything also to find that text that you sent. Like, the text of you quitting the podcast to Megan and I. That was just like, you guys, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this.
Yeah.
Also, this was probably an hour out of your week. At most. Because you weren't editing it. I think Megan was editing it.
It's about a state of mind. And anyway... Ultimately, I rejoined the podcast because genuinely this is who I am, right? Is a gossip-loving, reality show-loving, celebrity-loving, basic bitch. But I just was denying, I lacked self-awareness.
Absolutely, still do.
Sure.
No, but I want to say, like, I think you can be both. You can be someone who cares about literature and pop culture. Like, I just think you can be both.
No, absolutely. And I think that's really the ethos of the podcast and the story behind the name. Mm-hmm. So when we started it, we thought Pop Apologists is perfect because we're going to apologize for pop culture.
Right.
We're going to share why it's not stupid to care about the Kardashians and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yeah. There are, like, bigger themes and stories being told here on, you know, shows like Vanderpump Rules. It's Shakespearean.
Exactly. Absolutely.
So while Lauren was struggling to find, you know, who she was in her soul, there was another struggle happening, which is the fact that our parents did not like the podcast. They were not listening to it, but they had been told about it by a friend. I think someone, you know, good-naturedly, that's an expression. Is that an expression?
No, actually, this is what it was. I think it was a friend in the Mormon community.
Yeah.
Being like, yo, your girls are doing something embarrassing.
We'll never know. We'll never know. Our mom will never reveal who told her about it.
Right.
But basically, our mom was told that, you know, it was PG-13, that the content was inappropriate, not a good look.
Yeah.
And our mom texted us and said, basically,
like, your
threatened us.
Brass.
Yeah. She said, you have 24 hours. Straight up, I remember this text verbatim. You have 24 hours to take the podcast down, or else your father and I will be listening to it. Mm-hmm. And then it was, like, inferred that, like, there will be consequences. And the most scary consequence was our phone bill
being, you know, shut down.
Yeah.
That she wasn't going to pay for that. You know, $60 a month was a lot.
A lot.
So we promptly removed the episodes from the internet.
Completely.
We deleted the podcast. We're like, no problem. Like, here's the thing. It was beyond the phone bill. It was just like, we could not have our parents listening to us trash talk.
And I think also important context. if you really think about it, we were not very open with our parents about not being Mormon. I had barely, I guess, spoiler, because that's another question that is in the mix. Lauren and I were both attending a Mormon college, but we were not openly not Mormon, I guess. Like, and this is a school where you basically need to uphold Mormon values in order to go. Yeah, so they were not up to speed necessarily on all the activities of our life, or maybe how we were not keeping some of the rules that we were supposed to be keeping. And it was just going to be a much bigger conversation about like the lives that we were leading and how they would be disapproving of that.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of this podcast is that our parents have really kind of, because they listen, they've almost been forced to get to know us on a level that I think a lot of people don't share with their parents. Right. Like, you just never get to a place, most people, where you talk to your mom and your dad like you talk to your girlfriend. Right? It's like a very different tone of voice on some level. It's just different subject matter. And so our parents, because they insist on listening, they have gotten to know us completely. And it's been like such a special experience to feel accepted for exactly who you are. And like they can relate to us on some level on this level.
Yeah, I've never thought about it like that, that without the podcast, they wouldn't have gotten to know us this way. And like we maybe wouldn't have the close relationship that we have now.
It's a different thing now than it was a long time ago. Absolutely. In 2016.
It's really funny, actually. I feel like I have forgotten how much of a hold they used to have over me because they just were like helping me live my life.
Right.
So long story short, we took the podcast down. Like it was like threat level midnight. We are taking the podcast down. It is coming off the airwaves. Not a problem. We will never hear of this again. We will never speak of it again.
Yeah, we were completely terrified that there was any possibility that they would listen, which is, to be honest, so disappointing on some level, because if we had kept going in 2016, it just would have been so much easier.
Right.
Than starting a podcast 4 years later when everyone and their aunt had a podcast. But anyway, here we are. So in 2020, I remember this. I was driving to work.
Yeah.
Fast forward 4 years. I had my own job. I lived with my boyfriend. And I just was thinking about the podcast. And I called Chandler in the El Pollo Loco parking lot. And I was like, Chandler, we should restart the podcast. And why did you say yes?
Did we restart it during COVID or was it pre-COVID?
No, it was during COVID.
Okay, so I think I said yes because I was at home. It sounded like a fun venture. And at that point, I was financially independent. I was way less afraid of our parents. Yeah, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, working at my advertising job. And I loved the idea of having something that was like creative that wasn't advertising, you know?
We just loved doing the podcast before. And I think we always wanted to restart it.
Yeah.
And I think we were just on the cusp of really being able to be truly independent.
I think another reason why we started it is that Lauren and I would call each other every single morning, basically, on our way to work. We would talk about pop culture stuff. That was like, did you watch Real Housewives? Can you believe this? Like, we would catch up about life and sister things, but we would also talk about the Kardashians.
Right. No, it was very much like that classic, I think we're kind of funny. Like, I think people would want to hear these conversations.
I know, which is like so embarrassing to
So
admit.
embarrassing. And, you know, that maybe was a kernel of belief, but I will say it is still super weird to me and to you, I'm sure, that we do have an audience that actually loves it. Like, it's right now, I'm almost like, it's weird for me to talk about us because it's so hard for me to believe anyone cares.
Right.
So even just doing this podcast and like the conceit of this podcast episode is so strange.
It's bizarre.
It's totally bizarre.
So it's about 2:00 my time, okay? And I have a big night tonight. I'm going out. We're going to a concert. And I know that I'm going to be like fully indulging later on. So I'm going to crack open a Clean Simple Eats Clear Protein because, you know, I just want to eat healthy until I, you know, really don't eat healthy. You know what I'm saying?
The thing I love about Clean Simple Eats Clear Protein is it's just that really delicious, hydrating protein fuel that your body needs, but it's so light. So you're right. If you're going to have a heavy meal later in the day, or you already did have one, it's just a good way to get some good, clean energy. It's 90 calories, 20 grams of clean, grass-fed protein. These drinks, they're the beverage of the season.
No, they're incredible. Truly a genius innovation. I recommend, sipping on your clear protein with a lot of ice. I let it kind of get a little watered down, and then I just kind of slowly sip on it throughout my afternoon, and it keeps me totally nourished, keeps my energy levels high. Can't say enough good things about it.
Everyone, go to cleansimpleats.com, get their clear protein. You will absolutely love these drinks. It's the perfect way to fuel your body with the protein it needs in a truly light, gorgeous, refreshing way.
Use code POPAPOLOGIST10 at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code POPAPOLOGIST10 at checkout.
Also, I think that you and I are continually like in these pinch myself moments where we listen to the podcast. This is me yesterday. I listened back to our Patreon and I was like, I was thoroughly entertained by that. And I texted you and I was like, our podcast is good.
Right.
And that is like a continual shock to me because I think, you're in your own head about the way you are, whatever. And it is a shock to me that people listen and that it somehow like has found a little bit of an audience.
Yeah. I think that one of the special things about this podcast and what makes it something people love is our dynamic and our friendship. Chandler and I, when we were at BYU together, we were really, really good friends. We would hang out all the time. Like she always had her circle and I always had mine. And Chandler's circle was always like 10 times bigger than mine. She has so many best friends and just people that are obsessed with her. But no, I think that, we just were really, really close always.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we lived together at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, we really relied on each other a lot in those times. I think just like, and our friendship was really strong. And we didn't even become, this is kind of answering another question. Like, I don't think that you and I became besties until I was like basically about to graduate from high school. We were not super close friends growing up.
No, we weren't super close at all.
Can I paint a picture? If I may. I was in like my awkward 12, 13-year-old phase, like feeling just very insecure. And like Lauren was my older sister who wore heels and long strand pearls to school.
I think that was one outfit was the long strand pearls.
Bitch, you wore pearls multiple times.
Okay,
but how many times did you wear heels to high school?
Heels regularly. Okay, so this is a funny story. I remember we moved from Laguna Niguel, California to San Clemente, California when I was in the 8th grade.
Correct.
And I said to my mom, I was like, I really want to wear heels the first day of school, but it's obviously like way too much. And our mom, she was like, no. She was like, this is perfect. She was like, if you had already gone to school and then you wore heels, like if you knew these people, it would be embarrassing. Because none of these people know you. When you wear heels, they're just going to think, oh,
this is heels girl.
That's who she is.
Yeah, totally. This is Coco Chanel.
Yes, in the flesh, reincarnated. So in the 8th grade, my first day in the 8th grade, I wore heels to school.
Your first day as an 8th grader, you wore heels to school.
And I continued to wear heels through most of high school.
You did?
I really enjoyed getting dressed. I enjoyed that experience.
Yeah.
And anyway, but no, I think one of the other big pieces of lore, beyond like our dynamic, which is so close and like true sisters, we can really throw it back at each other and we can...
I appreciate you landing this plane in a positive place because I was trying to go and talk about how you were pretentious, my pretentious older sister who would read me her like poetry. Anyway, it took a while, I think, for our dynamic to be really good.
Yeah.
And I think that's normal as sisters, like... especially with a little bit of an age gap. I was just like borrowing your clothes and you were picking me up in your Volvo and telling me that you wouldn't turn on the AC because it cost too much gas money.
No, I think the real reason that we weren't tight is because I didn't believe in Mormonism.
Oh, yeah, that too.
And you did.
That's a big one, yeah.
And there was also this like unspoken boundary from our parents that they didn't want me getting super tight with you because they didn't want my bad ideas to...
Yeah, I mean, I think that was very real. And I now look back and I have like empathy for them.
Totally.
Of course, as you do. But I think that Lauren, there was a little bit of like, I can't get too close to that broad. Like,
well, and there was a little bit of energy of like, you're not...
They wanted us to love each other and be friends, but I think like your ideas were a little scary.
Yeah, and they didn't want me talking to you very much.
Yeah. I mean, and less so about our parents. I was also extremely devout.
Yeah, you were.
I would tell on Lauren for having songs that had the F word in them.
There's this one time I was playing Damien Rice and Chandler told on me. This is my favorite musician. I love Damien Rice so much. Chandler told on me because they had a song that, repeated over and over, like, what the hell?
F you.
Oh, F you. That's right.
Yeah, the chorus was just literally like, F you over and over again. And I was just like...
Chandler was shocked. Anyway, Damien Rice was forbidden in our home.
Yeah.
Henceforth, I was not allowed to continue listening to that music.
Anyway, that was our dynamic until I grew up a little bit more. My belief system shifted, and then we became closer friends.
Well, yeah. I think I remember we were picking up the Thanksgiving turkey.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, in Laguna Hills,
I do remember
California.
this, yeah.
And I was either away at school at that time and coming home for Christmas, and you
Yes.
were a senior in high school, and you were like, yo, I don't think I believe in this.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just
yeah.
the two of us in line. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it's like kind of eerie even to think about that moment because I also literally were in line at the Honey Baked Ham store in Lake Forest.
Yeah.
And I remember this like kind of insane moment of being like, things have shifted for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was crazy.
Which I didn't have any interest in my siblings exiting the Mormon church with me. I really, was not on a crusade to bring others with me. So I was almost just like, well, I was riveted, but also like, I don't want to get in trouble for this. I don't want this to be like my fault.
Right.
I did not do this or ever talk to you about this.
At that point, you had been away. It wasn't like you were living at home and I really had been on my own journey privately for like basically the year preceding.
Right. But you weren't open with mom and dad about that.
I wouldn't be open with mom and dad about that until like 2 years later.
Right. And so because it was after moving to Utah and going to school with me, I feel like on some level there was a little bit of like...
Yeah. I mean, mom and dad didn't know that I was done with the church, or at least cognitively like not into it until after my first year of BYU. Because also in my own defense, I will say that I was personally still trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know. I was deconstructing my own life and like the life that I thought I was going to have.
I honestly think that I still didn't talk to you about like your reasoning.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like there was ever a big conversation of like, oh, you found this out. What do you think about this? I almost feel like I was like, oh, you're on this journey. Like, I can't be part of it at all.
No, you were like,
I can't get in trouble for this.
Yeah. You were very hands off. And I think that I also was, I was just like also afraid and nervous. And I think I also wanted to keep one foot in because I was scared about, I was going at that point, I was maybe not accepted, but I had applied to a Mormon college.
Right.
And it was like, well, my life is on this Mormon track.
And Chandler had all the Mormon friends, like very different from me in high school. I mean, of course, Chandler's like beloved by all the adults and she has all these friends. And that's really like for me, because I mentally and honestly outspokenly exited so much younger. By the time I was in high school, I had said I didn't believe in it. I didn't make a ton of friends in the church. I didn't have a ton of adult friends in the church. I was on my way out. And so
I was like,
we just were already on the life path a little bit.
Absolutely. And I had like people that I cared about who knew me as a believing Mormon person and people who I wanted them to like me and to still like.
And you didn't want to disappoint them.
No, I didn't want to disappoint them. And that was such a long period of my life keeping that to myself. Such a private thing. And even as I started to sort of branch out and make friends with people who were not Mormon, I felt very nervous. And I was... Yeah, that was just like, that was a very hard period.
Okay, so this is a big thing in the podcast. People always like, they ask about the Mormonism.
Yeah.
We bring it up a lot. And the truth is, it's just a big part of us because it was such a strong way we were raised.
Yeah.
I mean,
honestly, it was the sea we swam in until we both exited BYU.
Yeah.
Like, which for me was at 22.
And for me was 25.
It's only been 7 years since I have been like out of that sea, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So we make a lot of Mormon references and like the language is very prevalent in the way we talk and talk to each other because it's just, I don't even know how to extricate it from my
it's just like a layer of skin I'll never be able to like shed.
Yeah.
And also it's just like still a big part of our life in terms of like our heritage, our family still, the people a lot of people we love and a lot of people who we like are friends with who have also exited.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway.
Yeah, it's a heritage on some level.
It's absolutely a heritage completely. And so that is why it is a big facet of this podcast.
Yeah, and I think that, we have a lot of Mormon listeners, and obviously our parents are Mormon and they listen. And so we try to really tread lightly and be respectful of other people's beliefs, but also be true to who we are.
Yeah.
And, try to tell our own stories and convey our own experiences in a way that's authentic, but isn't offensive.
Yeah.
And so we really walk a fine line, and sometimes we offend some people and sometimes we make them happy, and we're just doing our best.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just as we like continue to like deconstruct and become our fullest selves, it's just we're going to alienate some people or we're going to like ingratiate ourselves to like other people, and that's just the way it's going to be.
Exactly. So so on the flip side though, so there's so much like Mormonism lore in the podcast.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of the Mormonism of how we grew up,
yeah,
which kind of makes it sound like we grew up in this like really strict, intense environment, which we did, but we also grew up in a really fun household.
Yeah.
And we grew up with a mom who was just obsessed with having like a fun life and family.
Yeah.
And making life magical for
A really
her kids.
fun mom. Yeah. And I would say like our dad is more buttoned up, I would say, and more of the traditional like provider. And it's really funny because I think that like our parents are a very big yin and yang. That we're honestly like, it was important that there was a yin and a yang like growing up, I will say.
Yeah, our dad just always, I heard someone else refer to their dad this way, and I thought it was like so true of our dad as well. He like provided like the foundation, like the stage for all the characters to like play out on, you know? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Dad was just such a constant, such a devoted father, so amazing. And, to this day is just such a great man. And our mom, she was always just
kind of the main character.
The main character of the whole family.
Yeah.
And she still is. And we're still so close with her.
Yeah.
So like an example of, like family lore is our mom took us out of school for the Nordstrom grand opening at our local mall. Like imagine this, you're in the 2nd or 3rd grade and you get taken out of school for the ribbon cutting ceremony of the local Nordstrom. And we have pictures at it. Like we were so excited for the Nordstrom.
She was just like truly the quintessential Orange County mom.
If you were in Mission Viejo, you can see tile outside that we've... Because there was an activity for the groundbreaking or whatever, you could paint tile and be immortalized.
We have been, like this podcast is actually not like immortalizing us, but our tiles at the Mission Viejo Mall are immortalizing us forever.
You can see mine that says Lauren Bledsoe, Nordstrom Princess Mall Diva. We always make the comparison that our mom's like Phyllis Neffler from True Beverly Hills, and that's 100%. Really the vibe. It was like, wear your high heels, love fashion.
Super fun. Like, I'm going to take you out for a full day. And like our mom would always say to us, we've brought this up a bunch of times, but like, don't go to school tomorrow, stay home.
Right.
And it was like the strangest thing because I feel like we never took her up on it. Our mom truly wanted to hang out with us.
Yeah.
She considered us to be her best friends. And so spending a day with us was like totally fulfilling for her.
Absolutely.
Just like crazy to think about.
I know. She's really so incredible and just such a big personality and so fun to be around. And so I think there's a lot of Deb lore. Mom's name is Deborah and her dad's name is John. And there's a lot of Deb lore on the podcast. Yeah. We were raised with a mom with a really big personality. And even though it was like a religious, strict upbringing, it was also extremely fun on the flip side. But also like our mom is not afraid of ruffling some feathers or being a person who did outrageous stuff. Yeah. So for example, one of the big dramas of our childhood was some mislaid tile, or it was limestone.
Yeah, our parents had like they were building a house.
Yeah.
And they had like picked out tile that they wanted to go downstairs or whatever, and upon seeing the tile installed, they realized that it had been done totally wrong.
So they had not properly laid the foundation of the tile. Correct. So it was hollow underneath parts of it. And that means it will break. Yeah. And so our mom is a little bit like a bull in a china shop when things have gone incorrectly.
Like the original Karen. I mean, like, I say this and I'm not proud of it. Like, our mom is like, calls herself an aggressive consumer. Our mom is not a people pleaser.
Yeah, she's not a people pleaser.
At all.
So anyway, she marched her 5 daughters and 1 son down to Orange, California, I believe, where like all the construction stores are.
Yeah. There's like a big like main street where a ton of different tile distributors are, and then where their like storefronts are.
Yes. And she had gone to Michael's and made signs, and we literally, as like 19, 16, you were maybe 10.
Yeah, I literally remember being in like the Carl's Jr. parking lot or something, and she was like, when Aunt Miriam got a car and it didn't work, she went back to the dealership and told them, and they didn't care. So she got out there with her picket signs and she said, they sold me a lemon.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was,
and she was like, when your aunt did that, they listened to her. So tomorrow we're going to go picket outside of the tile place.
Yes.
And she was like, we're going to go to Michael's and we're going to buy signs.
Yeah. So she told us to wear our Sunday best. She wanted to make sure people knew we were upstanding members of the community who had been wronged by this tile company. We were not just ne'er-do-wells out to cause a ruckus.
She's going to like get mad because we're going to misquote this number, but I think it was something like, it was a lot of money. It wasn't like...
Oh, no.
It was a ton of money.
She was totally right.
Well, and she was absolutely right. And I think this is also like, this was our parents' dream house. So they worked for, neither of our parents came from money or anything. They both like completely like built themselves up from nothing.
Right.
And this was their dream house that they were building for their family. And they had like companies just will take advantage of you and do a shitty job.
Yeah.
It was like all their money at stake that they had like worked really hard for.
Totally.
You know?
Absolutely. So anyway, we picketed outside Marmol Exports.
Love
This
you were
tile
like naming
company.
names. And the best part is our oldest sister was at college at the time. She could not be there in person. But our mom was like, you please call and say that you just passed by the tile place and please say what's going on. I just saw all these people picketing outside your store.
I was thinking of coming shopping for tiles today. I mean, so there was some fraud involved in this picketing. And yeah, it was,
Anyway, she got what she asked for.
She got everything redone and also the supplies from Michael's to make the signs reimbursed. That was part of it. She wanted a check for the Michael's supplies before we would leave.
And it's like, it's amazing. And like, she deserved it. Like she had been wronged. Her and dad had been wronged.
No, she's the best. And honestly, like, I think another part of our childhood is like everyone in the community I feel like it was mostly the Mormon community. That's where we were raised. But in the stake was just obsessed with our mom. I just feel like we always had other adults coming over. Like everyone wanted to be around our mom. Right. She was just so fun. And is so fun. Right. People are obsessed with her because she really is just a really special person. So anyway, this podcast is not about Deb, but there's a lot of Deb lore.
Right. Okay, enough about mom and dad. We love them both so much. Thank you for listening. We're sorry that we swear sometimes. Let's talk about our other siblings because there's a cast of characters beyond our parents. We come from a large family. There are 6 kids.
Sometimes people will say, like, why don't you talk about your brother or your little sister or even your oldest sister very much? And the reason for that, because we talk about our sister Courtney a lot, is there's really only 3 of us who have, like, that are really going after a public career.
Correct.
Like
there's only 3 really thirsty people in our family.
Exactly. And so, we maintain the privacy of the people in our family who don't want people in the public domain knowing a bunch about them.
And honestly, like, they don't need to be caricatures on our podcast.
No. Characters, like, even our brother, I was like, do you want to come on? And he was like, no, I'm good. So they're not thirsty for the lights, unlike us. So we're just going to go through the siblings and kind of light dynamics.
Okay, so our oldest sister, her name is Ash.
She was born Ashley.
But her name is Ash. She legally changed
Ash.
it, so we respect that.
We do respect that. Our oldest sister is beyond incredible.
Yeah.
She's just amazing. One of the smartest people you'll ever meet.
She operates on a different plane.
Yes, absolutely. Her brain works at a speed that's 10x the rest of us, and we all just admit it.
Yeah.
She's so smart. She's so just fun to be around. She's incredible. Any funny Ash stories you want to tell? I mean, she's a midwife in Oregon. One of the reasons she told me she chose that career when I was in college is she said that in case civilization fell due to running out of oil or environmental disaster, she needed a career that she could use when there was no more electricity. And when I told her I was studying advertising, because I had this brief stint doing that, she said, oh, well, do you know what advertising is? I said, what is that? And she said, it's using words to sell people products. And do you know what products are? And I was like, no, what's that? She was like, that products are converting the living, like trees, natural resources, into the dead, killing our planet. She was an environmental extremist for a little while. And she once told me that she might be in prison at some point for an act of environmental terrorism. I'm not kidding you. This is when I was in college.
She's been arrested for protesting.
Yeah, she was a very intense activist before it was cool.
Yeah, 100%.
And so she's just so funny. And
yeah, I mean, there's quite a large age gap between her and I. My earliest memories of her are her spoiling the end of Twilight for me because she knew that it was going to be too inappropriate and mom and dad weren't going to let me read it. So she spoiled it for me. And also the summer that I was going to college, she mistakenly thought I was there for church camp. She didn't know how old I was. And so she was like, oh, are you here for EFY, sis? And I was like, no, I'm going to college like this year. Anyway,
she was a little checked out.
She was definitely checked out. And I don't think, there was a large age gap, but now we are great friends.
A key memory I have of Ash growing up was her telling me that this one friend of hers was the smartest person in their entire high school, was the valedictorian, smartest person she ever knew. And that's, imagine like a god tier intelligence telling you someone else is just beyond smart. And then she said to me, and his entire goal in life is to blow up the sun on Christmas Day. And I lived with that fear, like in my heart as a child. Like one day on Christmas, this really smart guy.
I've never heard that story.
You haven't heard that? She was totally a terrorist.
Once again, operating on a different plane.
Yeah.
So that's Ashley.
And then our next sister is, you know, Courtney, a celebrity in her own right.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what do we even need to say? Like,
some people need no introduction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her name is Courtney Grow. She's a fashion influencer and just all around really wonderful human being.
Yeah. When we were living in Provo, she was kind of like both of our moms to some degree, best friend and also mom, because she was at the time married.
Yeah.
You know, or she's still married. I feel like she's divorced. She had like the hearth and home, if you will, that we would like go to like spend time with family. And obviously she had our niece at the time.
She was just like kind of became, I think what
I was actually trying to say, she was the person who would loan us money the most.
That's definitely the case.
Like, she was the caretaker. That was wrong. She was the person who could loan us like anywhere between $25 to $100 on the fly.
At any moment. And that was definitely needed at many moments in college.
Yeah.
No, I think that Courtney is just, you know, I think people know her for her great style and that, I don't know about high school, but I would say at some point.
In terms of good style?
Yeah, I think that, to be honest, at some point in college, things really shifted into focus.
Oh my God, she's going to love to hear this.
Oh yeah, she would agree. I won't even get into the high school style.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, had great style in high school, but then had major lapses after.
Absolutely.
So, and this is kind of like to share the way Courtney's been very much a tastemaker. I remember when I saw her when I was 21 and I had been going to community college locally for a few years, or 20. And anyway, she was like 25 at the time. She was visiting from Utah and she was just so glamorous, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I was just like not. I basically was just, had no money and I was just like, was not super into fashion anymore.
I think glamorous is an excellent word with Courtney because she really has always been like glamorous to both of us. Like, kind of just like, where'd you get that outfit from? Also on another level in terms of just like the clothes she was wearing, like the experiences she was having. She was just like, just very glamorous.
Absolutely. And I just remember that we were like sitting on the couch together at our grandma's house and I was wearing these like Mary Janes from Urban Outfitters and I just had like a very mid outfit on, you know, and my style was mid at the time. And she was like, really, this is how it's going to be? She was like, this is the level we're going to be at? Like she was not
at grandma's
approving.
House?
Yeah.
Jeez. She's not giving unsolicited notes like that to us anymore.
Correct.
Thankfully, I think we've rose to the occasion. But she's been instrumental, I think, in making us stylish, cool people.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
I mean, I don't know if I would, you know, take that title, but I think she's tried to do her best.
I'll take it
with me.
I'll take it. And you know, and every time Courtney wears something that I have maybe showed her or that I've like, anytime she's wearing anything that like I maybe had any type of like role in, it means everything to me. It's like such a compliment. I feel like if Courtney like blesses a fashion choice of mine. And also, so aside from her glitz and glamour and fashion choices, she's an extremely generous sister.
Yeah.
To us.
I think that her Instagram is kind of like a Pinterest.
Yeah.
It's you know, stylized pictures. And I think she does share a lot of her personality, but I think that Courtney, beyond being glamorous, has just always been very grounded and had really solid values.
Yes.
And so I think that that's a part of her that maybe people don't see as easily on her Instagram, but
her values look like shit on Instagram. I'll tell you that much.
She's just a really, really sweet, down-to-earth person who loves her friends and her family and is a really, really good sister.
Totally. She's somebody who I think like who we look up to in a lot of different ways in terms of just like the blueprint for like family life and just everything.
Being a good person.
Yeah, we love her.
So Ashley is 3.5 years older than Courtney.
Yeah.
Courtney is 3.5 years older than me. Chandler, I'm 5 years older than Chandler. So our parents spaced us all out because they wanted to, they said, enjoy each child as much as possible.
Yeah, which is crazy.
They loved having kids.
Yeah.
And that was, their life. And so Chandler and our brother Nick, though, are like 9 months apart, basically.
Yeah, our brother Nick, who is adopted.
Yes.
He and I are 8 months apart. Actually, he was born in January. I was born in August.
So I think to illustrate how wonderful of a heart our mom and dad have, when my mom was in her 40s, she had a high school friend who passed away. And she had a son at the time. And the son just really didn't have like the next place he was going to go to.
Yeah. There wasn't like a family member that made sense for him to live with.
Right. And so our mom was at the funeral and was like, this child like needs a family.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of what prompted what eventually was adopting our brother Nick.
Right.
And I at the time, so how old were you? Was he 9?
He was 9. I think I was 8. Or he was 7 and I was 8. It's either one or the other. I can't remember.
I think I was either an 8th grader in high school.
Yeah.
When we met Nick.
Yeah.
And we adopted Nick. And yeah, Nick is just such a smart, thoughtful, nice person.
Yeah.
He's really just, I think one of the things about Nick that's like so fun is he's always the person that like brings good energy.
Totally.
Good vibe.
Yeah.
It's hard to ruffle his feathers.
It's literally like it may be impossible to ruffle his feathers
He's
a
like
little bit.
always doing great.
Yeah. It was a really crazy experience to like all of a sudden when I was 8 gain a brother and like a best friend. We were in the same grade growing up. Like, I think that at times we definitely fought because we were like basically opposite people. But now I'm like, I feel so lucky to have a sibling who's like so close to me in terms of like age and just like life. And our brother, I also will say, is genetically like
the most gifted.
The most gifted. 100% athletic, coordinated, all of the things, super muscular. It's not fair. And it's crazy too because Nick's also like a very handsome guy. And so it was just always funny in school, people being like, Nick's your brother? And now I look back, I'm like, that's kind of rude. Like people are always just like shocked that like we were like in the same family. And I'm like, yeah, Nick is my brother. Yes, he's very handsome. And all my friends always had crushes on him. He's wonderful. But yeah, he's a more private person. And so, we won't share too much about Nick because, yeah, he's not thirsty like us.
Yes, exactly. And then our little sister McCall is also a private person. But just to share a little bit about her, she is, I think, one of the most sweet, kind, and just like fun, effervescent, wonderful people. She's really like, she went on a Mormon mission and it was interesting to watch her really blossom after that experience because, you're talking to people all the time and you're really having to put yourself out there. And like, it's almost like that's boot camp for being socially graceful because she is now just such a social butterfly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, she's the best.
She's wonderful. She's honestly so sweet. It's really fun too because I feel like McCall and I actually look quite alike and our mannerisms are really similar. And that's been really fun as she's like, I don't know, she's gotten older to like realize how similar we are.
Wait, you think you look like McCall?
I think McCall and I look alike.
Oh, that's so funny because I think I look like McCall.
It's so funny.
Obviously.
I'm like, we're both like both trying to look like McCall. She's
McCall
gorgeous.
is stunning.
She's gorgeous.
She's stunning. Yeah.
She has the best hair. Like literally, it's annoying to all of us.
Incredible.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of resentment towards McCall our whole life because she was spoiled for
she
sure.
Was so favored, classic, the youngest daughter.
Like I just remember, like our parents would take her on vacation to Hawaii, and like we had to stay home with a babysitter. McCall was absolutely favored, absolutely like just 100% spoiled, and honestly, she deserved to be because she did not give our parents hell like many of us did. It's just so funny because every year. At some point, our dad, as McCall was getting a little bit older, our dad would be like it would be like Saturday morning. It's like we got chores to do, things to do around the house.
McCall would never have to do anything.
McCall would never have to do or she'd have to do the easiest fucking thing. And so like this thing started to happen where our dad would be like, "This is the year McCall learns to work." That happened for like 4 or 5 years in a row.
There were many years that were going to be the year
McCall learned to work.
Finally learned to work. It's just like, why the fuck did this not happen 5 years ago?
Also, it's like we had no choice. We had to work. There were so many chores for us to do, but like it was like such an effort for like our parents were like, McCall is going to learn to work this year. And anyway, it's very cute because she got like one of her first job basically, and she sent us all a text and she was like, "This is the year McCall learns to work." She still has our parents' credit card though, so Yeah,
she definitely had the smoothest upbringing. But anyway,
we love her.
So those are the siblings. That's kind of the dynamics of the family. I feel like we get that question a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do some first pieces of information for people to get to know us. Just kind of where we live.
Yeah.
Bio. So I, Lauren, live in Puerto Rico. I live there full time in San Juan with my husband, Kagan. What else? People want
your work. I think people always want to know what you do for work.
What I do for work, yes. So I don't know if I refer to it as much anymore, but I feel like I used to refer to my businesses a lot on the podcast.
Literature, businesses. I need a bingo card for you.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, so people are like, what are the businesses? So I have a business called Retain Finance. It's a platform that offers lending products to attorneys so that their clients can pay over time. So it's basically like a firm, but for attorneys. So
to offer their clients.
Yeah, to offer their clients so that their clients.
It's not like for the attorneys who like need a special kind of a firm.
Correct. Yeah, it's not B2B loans. It's so attorneys can offer their clients a financing option.
And I think what's really cool about Retain, also I just want to say, as someone who, I've never had to retain an attorney, thank God, knock on wood. But I think oftentimes an attorney's retainer is quite high, and a lot of people don't have that type of like cash on hand.
Yeah, it's generally the price of a vehicle, as we like to say.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, great.
And 90% of vehicles are financed by US consumers.
So why do you have to come up with all that money at once?
Yeah, so as an attorney, you're essentially asking someone to pay for something that they're very much used to financing.
Yes.
And not giving them that option. So that is a business that I am not involved in the everyday operations anymore, but I still own and, is a great business. And then the other business, when we talked about businesses, is this podcast. Which up until I would say the past 6 months took a lot of time for me.
Yeah.
It still takes a lot of time. It's probably 20 to 35 hours a week, depending on the week, but it takes a lot of time. And the podcast is a good business.
Yeah.
So those are my businesses.
Yeah, those are your businesses. We love our business owner over here. No, you really are as an entrepreneur, and you are, I'm serious. Like, I mean that like in just with admiration.
Oh.
And you are the reason why the podcast like is happening and moves along.
Thank you, Chandler. So Chandler, what do you do for work?
So nice of you to ask me finally after all these years. I actually work at Meta full-time. I have a full-time job, everybody, in corporate America. I am a copywriter at Meta. I work, on consumer advertising, marketing, all those things. But yeah, like the job that I perform every day is copywriting. And I live in New York City full-time with my fiance, Ben. So because I have a full-time job, that is more demanding, I would say, than Lauren's businesses. It's not meant to sound like shade, but I guess maybe it is a little bit. But I have more demands on my day-to-day life and time. Lauren really runs the operations of the podcast, and I help out when I can. No, I have my own tasks, but Lauren runs it.
I mean, things have evolved.
Yes.
When we first started, I was doing, other
all
than
of it.
Co-hosting, I did everything.
Everything.
And, we've gotten help over time. And anyway, but yeah, that's kind of been an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. It's been something we've had to like work through. We continue to work on.
For sure.
But I'm so happy to be in business with Lauren. And she has like really like, she's the reason why this podcast has been successful.
True.
I mean, I definitely bring a dynamic, but like our Kate Middleton success, Lauren was like literally driving that forward. And I just, I'm very grateful to be in this with you.
Thank you. I mean, I think one of the dynamics on the podcast is I can be a little more shameless than Chandler. And I don't even know what it is. I just think that I'm...
You are shameless.
Well, I don't know why. I almost feel like I sometimes have to ask Chandler, like, should I be ashamed of this thing? Like, I'm just missing some shame genetic.
I think you're a contrarian.
Okay. Well, anyway, who
and that's
cares?
not a bad thing.
But I think that, so like one of the dynamics of the pod is kind of, have I pushed you or like...
I think that I'm more of a people pleaser by nature.
Yeah.
And I think Lauren has made me more unapologetic. And that's been really good for me.
Yeah.
Really, really good for me.
For sure. But I think one of the like key things people love about the pod is truly our dynamic.
Yeah.
And the way that I think if you're talking to a friend and they say something annoying or eye-rolly or obnoxious,
Yeah.
most of the time you nod along and you like smile and you laugh, you fake laugh. And Chandler she'll roll her eyes. She will say that's annoying.
Yeah.
She will call me out.
And vice versa.
Yeah, but you never say annoying stuff. You're pretty chill.
It's true. No, but you, like, we can tease each other.
Yeah.
In fact, we've even gotten comments sometimes about how we, like, people are like, I feel like that one girl's really rude to the other one. It's like, no, this is just our dynamic.
Yeah.
And this is, like, almost like the freedom and, like, unbridledness of sister chats.
Yeah, exactly. This is what it's like to be in business with someone who you will be at their funeral, just like you're at their birth. And you'll be at every holiday. And yeah, I think that's like, there's such an intimacy almost that you can't even have this kind of knowing another person with your partner, like the person you grew up with. Anyway, there's just
absolutely
a sibling dynamic that's really special.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think that's one of the key things people come to the pod for. What other questions are there?
I agree.
People have asked us, what were you doing before this podcast? Where were you before? How did you come to this place? Of where you are now.
Right, of thirstiness. What were you doing before you became the mayor of Cringe City?
Exactly, which we are co-mayors together at Cringe City on the pod.
I was a copywriter. I worked at an ad agency in LA. And that's what I was doing, and that's what I'm still doing as well, but for a different place.
Chandler was a very smart person, and she got a marketable skill in college, and then she got a job doing what she studied, and now is reaping the economic rewards of her cushy, great job.
I really like my job. I feel lucky to have it. But, at times, like this past week, it's been a little hard to do both.
Chan's a tycoon. Chandler is very successful at what she does. She does very well for herself. She definitely, age adjusted, is the most successful sibling. So I like to remind Chandler that, because sometimes, you might be trolling me for being a little out of touch.
I mean, I'm not traveling like you're traveling.
Sure. But Chandler, she will sometimes troll me. And I'll be like, well, when I was your age, which I guess is now shifting, but when I was your age, I was starting several businesses.
Oh my gosh. No. Fresh homemade cookies is one of them.
Oh yeah.
Lauren before her businesses, Lauren had a lot of other businesses.
Yeah, I've got a lot of business ideas. So I got laid off during COVID. Mm-hmm. My only professional job was basically being like an executive assistant at a company called Stint.
Yeah.
Which makes socks. And then I did some operations for them. It was not exactly an illustrious career. And I got laid off from this fine job.
During COVID. It was
during COVID.
Yeah, within the first couple weeks or something.
It was the biggest gift of my life that happened, because we could never have started the podcast if I had a big full-time job that I was doing, because that job was demanding. But once I was laid off from that, I remember I was like, I'm just done with working on the computer. Like, I don't want to do anything that doesn't, like, I just want to do something honest.
Everyone with an email job listening, just know that Lauren just called you dishonest, a liar.
I just want to be able to touch what I make, you know?
Gosh.
And so I was like...
You were touching the socks.
And also, like everyone else, I was baking during COVID. And so I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a baker. I'm going to bake cookies in my house. Mm-hmm. And then...
You were making excellent cookies.
I had found a really good cookie recipe. And so anyway.
Also, it's like, it wasn't even like your own recipe.
It was just a Milk Bar cookie recipe, but I thought I was a genius for being able to follow instructions. So I'm just like, this is my gift from God.
Yeah.
And I am going to I was like, my differentiator and how I'm going to provide value for the consumer is I'm going to drive the cookies hot to people's houses.
I mean, now you think about like a crumble or a chip, and a lot of these places, like... This was a good stroke of inspiration.
Well, but for me, I was like, it was going to be me driving to each person's house.
Right. It was going to be like
I wasn't thinking in terms of scale.
Right.
And so anyway, I did some rough calculations, and I basically realized that I would have to be delivering like 80 batches of cookies a day to be able to even remotely, make up my previous salary, which was just not going to be possible because, that's 80 times,
I mean,
if a rack goes into the oven, hot, dry, go back, next batch. That's just like not going to work.
You guys, Lauren was just also so serious about this business. She had the Instagram handle. She was probably a week or at least 3 or 4 days into fresh homemade cookies being her new life. And then I remember you calling me to just be like, it can't scale. It was sad.
It was the death of an idea.
Yes.
No, I wanted to trademark like creaming butter and brown sugar.
Yeah.
That's how serious I was. Unfortunately, didn't work out. Wanted to patent that invention.
But anyway,
here we are.
So yeah, everyone, God bless the broken road, that led us straight here to Pop Apologists.
All right, so that was Pop Apologists 101. On Friday, we're going to bring you Pop Apologists 201, which is going to be the more advanced questions, the offering that goes a little bit deeper, I don't know why I just put on my radio voice, but pieces of information that we just want to keep a little bit closer to the vest.
Yeah.
So that'll be on our Patreon. And our Patreon is really where we feel a lot more comfortable to share more, to be even more ourselves.
Yeah.
We love the Patreon episodes.
Patreons are great. It's a little bit more unfiltered. Also for Apple subscribers.
We colloquially refer to it as the Patreon, but it's also available on Apple. We're working on getting it on Spotify. So we hope you've enjoyed Pop Apologists 101. And if you are interested in 201, we'll be back on Friday. We're going to get more into our religious upbringing. I was going to make a sex joke, but I won't.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you can catch that on Friday. Love you guys.
Love you.
Bye.
That's all for now, folks. Don't forget, give us a 5-star review, hit us up on Instagram at Pop Apologists, and we will see you next week, live every Wednesday.